President Biden announcing he is throwing his full support behind accepting Sweden and Finland into NATO.
That's right. He said his administration is submitting a NATO accession report to congressional lawmakers today so they can move on consenting to the treaty. This morning, the president welcomed the leaders of Sweden and Finland to the White House to discuss their NATO applications and the larger issue of European security. Both Sweden and Finland officially submitted their requests to join NATO Wednesday. The two countries became more vocal about wanting to join after Russia invaded Ukraine. Today, Mr. Biden said accepting Finland and Sweden into NATO will only help make the alliance stronger.
Sweden and Finland have strong democratic institutions, strong militaries, and strong and transparent economies, and a strong moral sense of what is right. They meet every NATO requirement, and then some. And having two new NATO members in the high north will enhance the security of our alliance and deepen our security cooperation across the board.
Joining us with more on today's visit is CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Ed, very good to see you. Why is this meeting with the leaders of Sweden and Finland so significant?
Oh, it is a big moment for the history of the military alliance, for the Biden foreign policy, because this is something that, as he told people assembled there at the White House, here in the back lawn a little while ago, is actually started back in December, before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, when the president of Finland called up and said, I think given what they're about to do in Ukraine, it may be time for Finland to join NATO. And the president kept it quiet over the course of several weeks as the conflict began, and then into March when he encouraged Finland to take that step. They have overwhelmingly with their parliament, so did Sweden. There was growing public support as the war began in both of these countries, two of the most advanced, strongest democracies in Europe, to join up, but they had held off on doing so given their proximity to Russia and where they sit there in what the president called the high north, along the Arctic Circle, which is and then of course just to the west of Russia. It's a geopolitically sensitive area, and for so long they had decided it made more sense to be non-aligned or not a member of this alliance or anything that the Soviet Union or Russia was doing. And now, given what Vladimir Putin has done, they have decided to join NATO. It is a massive geopolitical audible by the Russian leader, and a big victory for a president in this country who has supported NATO throughout his Senate and vice presidential and presidential career, and has done a lot of work behind the scenes, a lot that I don't think we're going to find out about for several years still, to keep European allies together as this conflict in Ukraine continues.
Yeah, absolutely, Ed. But of course, it's not a done deal yet. While the U.S. and many other NATO countries are supporting Finland and Sweden's bid, Turkey does not support membership for either nation. Why is that? What are Turkey's objections, and what needs to happen to get Turkey on board?
They have some specific concerns about the scope of its military and its commitment to defending, other countries or their capability of doing so. And then they just haven't had necessarily the closest of relations with Turkey in recent years. And so you heard in his remarks the president of Finland say, we hear you, Turkey. We're going to talk to you about this. We'll sort it out. The president was asked about this yesterday, and publicly at least believes that this is going to get sorted out and Turkey will ultimately get on board. But it requires consensus in NATO. It will require eventually U.S. Senate approval as well. Here in Washington, it sounds like that can happen pretty easily. It may just take a little while longer than people would like, but ultimately there is a belief among other NATO members that this is something that will get sorted out, and Erdogan, the leader of Turkey, will have conversations with the Finnish and the Swede leaders, and they'll go on from there. But it's also, a good reminder now of how far this military alliance stretches from Turkey, which of course hugs Europe and Asia, all the way north now to Finland and Sweden once they're approved, all the way to the Arctic Circle in essence, and then out to the Atlantic coast. And this is a sign again of how that part of the world at least is standing together against Russian President Vladimir Putin and his invasion of Ukraine. And it's why the president wanted this meeting to happen this morning before he heads to Asia later today to shore up support for the Western world or for democracies that are standing against what Putin is up to over there.
Absolutely. And Ed, on that note, a busy day ahead for the president, who is heading to Asia later today with those stops planned in both Japan and South Korea. So what can we expect from that trip? And are there concerns surrounding North Korea, given the number of missile tests that they've had in the past few weeks alone?
There are concerns, and the White House has been working on the potential contingencies for that, fully aware that Kim Jong-un and his regime may try to do something to dramatically remind the world of its nuclear ambitions and capabilities. The president will be flying most of the rest of today, stopping in Alaska to refuel and then landing in Seoul. The meetings there are the kinds of meetings he's been eager to have as president since the start, but hasn't been able to, both because of the pandemic and then in more recent months because of the conflict in Ukraine. This administration believes that the United States' foreign policy needs to be recalibrated in that direction, focused on, worried about, talking to, investing in, and getting investment from Asia, especially amid the rise of China. So you will hear the president throughout this trip talk about the ongoing struggle between democracies and autocracies, about some new economic partnerships with countries in that region, especially amid the concerns about inflation around the world and supply chain bottlenecks as factories in China especially remain shuttered because of the pandemic. And it'll be the opportunity for this president to, again, try to focus his foreign policy and the country's attention more on a part of the world that he believes is critical, of course, in this century, and one that needs attention from stronger democracies like the United States in order to counter China's rise.
A trip to watch. Ed O'Keefe, thank you very much.